Well, with ptcgl currently down, introducing an update, which is actually a good one, mind you. Might do a video on that soon. I decided that let's spread our wings and do something a little bit different, as we are indeed going for a tier list in order to find the top 5 rogue decks from January 2025. Now, a few clarifications here. This is from my videos. This is basically the top rogue decks that I've uploaded to the channel, and so this is ultimately going to be very heavily based on my opinion on the matter, which, you know, I've got a lot of experience in rogue deck, let's be real. And the factors I'm going to be taking into account aren't just how good the deck is. I think there's other factors at play. You know, I'm talking entertainment value. How much of that rogue nature does it have? You know, the impact of that deck when the video went out, and overall how I feel about that deck in general. So it's going to be a bit of an encompassing of multiple factors rather than this deck better than this one. I think that's a little bit boring. I think we should have a bit of fun with it. And who knows, maybe this could be something that we continue every single month at the end of the month. But either way, let's get going here. We have the first one of this video, the top 8 Cinderace with Skelly Dirge EX. Now, this was one that did well online and was relatively interesting. But if I'm honest with you, here's something that I also want to take into account. There's not much I remember about this deck list in terms of playing it or anything like that. When I'd done the video, I didn't really go back to it or anything like that. There are a few decks in this tier list that I went back to, and I'm like, yeah, I want to play this again and again. This, unfortunately, wasn't one of those ones. I thought it was just really cool to see a unique deck like Cinderace and Skelly Dirge get a top 8. And we have to like acknowledge the fact that top 8 is a good finish. And I believe there was multiple top 8s with this. So it clearly is a good deck, but in terms of impact, didn't have much of an impact. In terms of entertainment value, I didn't have the best time playing with it because of how sequence heavy it was. I think I would put it in an upper B, I think, for that one. The next one is Chestnut V with Area 0 Underdepths. That, I believe, was the last video uploaded before. Was it the last before Prismatic Evolutions? I believe it was. But this was a vibe. This one I actually had like a genuinely good time with. Is it a good deck though? No, not the best deck out there. It just gets one shot all the time. And was relatively difficult. Oh, drop something there to like get going consistently and keep it flowing. But for vibes alone, I think I would probably put it in upper B, just above the Cinderace, even though Cinderace is probably better. I think just for like the entertainment value and the idea, you know, just having all your chestnuts out, having a full bench, which allows you to get all your chestnuts, plus have additional support, which it otherwise didn't have. I think it was just quite nice as like what was likely the final video for Chestnut V. Next up, we have a Starmie with Glaceon deck. Now, this is a for the win original, my boys. As I don't believe I saw any other decks like that out there, but this deck actually was kind of fun to play and was surprising at how often it was able to achieve that, was it 5 or 6 damage counters that Glaceon needed in order to take one-shots? And I believe we, if I remember correctly, we beat Azard in that video. I think this is a pretty cool deck. I think this is really good. I think I did like it. Did it have the impacts that maybe I would have liked on like a ptcgl? Not really. I'm sure a lot of you picked up the deck, played a couple of games with it and went, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Anyway, on to the next one. And I think it has that kind of vibe. And because of that, I think I'm going to go, again, a lot of B. I'm going to run out of space. Again, in the B. Is it above Chestnut? I think so. I'm a bit more proud of this one because I was happy to have built it myself and like from scratch, take no ideas from anywhere else and just kind of throw it together. And it turned out quite nice. So yeah, we'll put it in the upper B. Uh-oh, here we go. An expanded deck. The broken Regidrago V-Star with ADP. Oh my God. This is a very unique deck because I think, I'm trying to remember it because it was a while ago now. There was like a really awkward way you had to get this going because you had to altered creation whilst also fulfilling Regidrago's attack cost. So you had to get 4 energy on it. One of them accounting for, I believe it was an extra water or an extra metal. I think it was an extra water energy. So you had to get 4 energy on this and have one of them technically count as an extra water energy. So you could get a free rainbow energy on this Reggie. It still wouldn't matter. You needed 4. And that was a little bit awkward. But we did find a way, right? We did find a way. I forgot how we done it. I can't lie. The memory's a bit hazy. But I remember we had a bunch of like E-switches and multi-switch to get energy up there as well. We definitely like did make it work and was able to get altered creation off relatively consistently either turn 2 or 3, which, you know, getting 4 rainbow energy on a Reggie Ain't that easy, but we managed to pull it through. And when it did happen, it was the most broken deck I think you could ever think of, right? You have the extra prizes, the extra damage, plus Regidrago's copying from the discard pile. So it was just disgusting, absolutely horrible in every way, but I think a great reflection of how insane Expanded is. And for that, I'm going to put it in A. Next up, we have one of the first Frostlass variants in this video, that being Vaporeon with Frostlass. Fun fact, guys, I've already recorded half of this video and I accidentally clicked the pause button on it, so it didn't record. So I've already ranked this one, but let's see where my brain takes me today. I don't remember where I ranked it, to be fair to you, but this Vaporeon was a little bit underwhelming, as although initially it was the first video I uploaded for Prismatic Evolution, so that has something to it, and the one I was super excited for when I thought about it, practically, it kind of just fell short. It was super reliant on your opponent playing a bunch of EXs. It did not hit into Vs, which is insane. And obviously Manaphy just shut it down. You know, as soon as you saw a Manaphy in play, it's like, well, this is kind of a useless card now. And I often saw myself hitting 280 with the Vaporeon and just taking 1-hit KOs more than using its first attack, which was the whole point of the deck. So for that, I'm going to drop it into a low C, I would say. Up next, we have the insane coin flip crazy Snorlax EX. Right, this one's quite interesting because it is not competitively viable at all. And in fact, if you was going to go down this kind of coin flip Snorlax vibe, you would go with Kangaskhan, right? But I can't lie, this was so fun to play. Anything that's very coin flip reliant always has that entertainment value for the video, but also it's just fun to play, right? Just hop on a casual ladder, not get too competitive, and just try and hit insane big damage output with a big tanky Pokemon. When it worked, it was unstoppable. When it didn't, it was very stoppable. And so this one's an interesting one. I think personally, I'm debating around the B tier, and I'm thinking the upper B, not because of its competitive viability or how good the deck is, but just how much raw fun you have playing it. I think because of that, I am going to put that there. Now, speaking of fun, this one was also pretty fun too. That is the Rotom V-Star with the Treasure Tracker. Now, although it's definitely an entertaining deck to play, in my opinion, there was something glaringly wrong with it. And that was the Treasure Tracker was kind of pointless, in my opinion, because you just play Blender, right? As much as it was fun to go for Treasure Tracker, get a bunch of tool cards, use Rotom's V-Star power to draw massive hands, you're kind of relying your V-Star power on your A-Spec and your A-Spec on your V-Star power, instead of them just being independent, where you could play Blender at some point in the game, get a bunch of, tool cards in a discard pile, and then on top of that, use Rotom V-Star to discard tools in your hand, or just to draw yourself a better hand if you needed to, or otherwise use Forest Seal Stone, which you sometimes see in Rotom V-Star decks. It had a lot more to it, and although this was interesting and fun, I don't think the Treasure Tracker element is what made it so interesting and fun. I think just Rotom itself is an interesting and fun deck. So I think for this one, it's definitely better than Vaporeon Frostlass and has a little bit more entertainment value. Again, I know I didn't say that was fully A-Spec dependent, but I would put it in C above Frostlass, I think. Oh, but baby, we're getting some interesting ones now. The next one is the first place in Japan, getting top 8s, getting top finishes for Alligator, which is looking to be an actual force post-rotation as a good deck. So I think this is definitely up in the upper tier for just how good the deck is. Now, there was some interesting comments in the video about some flaws in the deck. The glaringly obvious one being the lack of reversal energy. I didn't go back to this deck myself and try it out, and that's also another thing I'm taking into account. I didn't really go back to Alligator after playing it thinking, I really want to play this deck, it's so fun, because it just wasn't my cup of tea. However, to say this deck didn't have an impact, didn't impact the ladder, it's a banger of a video, it done well for both myself and LDF, and loads of people are still playing it. I think this has to go in the S tier, if not the lower part of the S tier, in my opinion. Maybe high A, because I didn't have too much fun playing it. I don't think it has that energy that some rogue decks do have otherwise. I think this is much more technical and particular in how you play it. And I think because of that, it would be on the lower part of S, but you can't disregard its impact it's having now and the impact it will have in the future too as a rogue deck. So, or even taking its place as a tier 2, tier 3 meta deck, but I think S is a good place for it. Speaking of intense, let's have a look at the Sea King. Now, this bad boy I adore the deck. I love playing with Seeking cards. They always are something interesting. You know, the Swim 3D one, there's always something going on with Seeking. But I love this idea of a deck in the fact you can attack twice, you draw a bunch of cards, you get to utilize unique supporter cards like Roseanne's backup so well, you know, recovering max belts and the like, and black belt on top of that. I think just the fact that you have all of these unique concepts in this deck, and you can also hit big numbers, take big KOs, I think that really, for me, puts it in the upper S. Is it better than for Alligator? By just performance standards? No, it's not. For Alligator, it's definitely better. But in terms of fun, Seeking is a deck I went back to. I played on my own, in my own time, just for pure fun, because I love drawing big hands. I love doing multiple attacks, taking multiple prizes here and there, and just finding every card I want with Grookey every turn. It's like in my opinion, almost the perfect road deck for me. It's intense, it has unique aspects to it, it's extremely consistent, it just hits everything for me personally. So I think I'm going to put it up in the S at the very top for now. Now up next, we have one of the more interesting ones, one that I uploaded the very 1st of January. That being Spiritomb with the Brilliant Blender. Now, this one is also kind of cool. Reason being, it was something that I don't think many people thought of at that point in time. Don't get me wrong, something groundbreaking. But the idea is kind of cool, right? You just blend away your Spiritombs and, you know, attack with Dittos. And as long as you have like a bunch of ways of keeping energy in play, like EXP share and stuff, you can just go straight for 250 every single turn, which is really good. Like that's a number that you see United Wings taking multiple turns to try and get. So I think that's really cool. However, in terms of impact, it didn't really shake anything. Obviously, it's still super weak to like Dusknoirs, Dracopols, Curums. It's just gets bodied by the meta a lot. Although fun in concept, I personally think just by the pure fact it gets bodied by so much and kind of falls into that, oh, it's just another blender deck category. I think I'm going to have to rate it at a high C, I think personally. So we'll keep it there. Oh, but baby, next we have Budew Frostlass. This one is very, very interesting because not only did it absolutely blow up as a video, it probably the highest performing video in its amount of time I've ever had for Pokemon TCG and not only that, it absolutely infested the ladder. The amount of messages I got from people saying, Sean, what have you done? Badoo's everywhere. You know, that's an impact we need to take into account. Is it fun? Yes, it was fun to play. It was really interesting to just shut your opponent down, catch them way off guard, and just dominate them with your Badoos and your Monkey Dories and the likes. It even started getting top 16, top 8 finishes in Limitless. What also I really liked though, was this was the first ever list that I created myself that actually started finding top placements. So I always build my own unique lists when thinking of archetypes because I find it more fun that way. But a lot of the times it's just naturally a worse kind of list. But this one actually started popping up. You know, the gift energy, that was something I didn't see anywhere else. And that was starting to be played in the Badoo. It was like the gift with the unfair stamp. Like that started actually getting some top 16 placements. And I was like, whoa, okay, my list for once is actually doing well. So because of the fun factor, because of its actual placements, because of the impact, it has to go even above Seeking. It really does. I personally enjoy playing Seeking more, but you can't reject Budew Frostlass for what it's done so far since it's become an archetype. Slowing things down now, we've had some big hitters like very quickly there. We are now having a look at the Hydrapple with the Precious Trolley. This one, I think, is interesting. Hydrapple is a card that has a lot of people enjoying it, a lot of love behind it personally, and I can fully see why. Hydrapple is just a really cool card, and Precious Trolley does help, right? It allows you to just get a bunch of Ogerpons out and then just get a lot of energy into play really quickly, but it just didn't seem ultimately necessary. The deck seemed to be doing fine with the likes of Nest Balls and Bug Catchers and Ultra Balls to get its cards out. And you're probably just better off playing something like Grand Tree if you really want to get Hydrapples out quickly, or any other aspect that could help you out. It was cool in concept, but I just don't think it found its place personally with Hydrapple as much as I did like it. Again, one of those decks I didn't really go back to, didn't have too much enjoyment out of. I think it sits at a high C for me. Now, if we're going to talk enjoyment here, this one I very much enjoyed. It is the Energy Discard Lugia EX. Just taking a terrible card and turning it into an absolute troll and a meme. I think you just can't sit there and go, Nah, that's not good enough. Honestly, I had a lot of fun with this one. Completely shutting opponents down. Just being able to like discard a ton of energy. If your opponent didn't respect energy discard, you would just completely shut them down and you just go crazy. But of course, if they had ways around it, you would lose. So it's kind of like but ultimately, I do think it was better if you're just talking about straight viability. I do think it's, something dropped there. I think it's better than Snorlax. And also, is it as fun? I think it is. I think it is just as fun. I don't know. The uniqueness of the deck as well, I think is kind of cool. Just really leaning into the hammers. I think I'm going to go for a low A. Oh, some of you might not agree with that. I'm going to go for a low A on the Lugia. Into the last three now, we have Badoo with the Greninja this time. Not with the Frostlass, although it was Frostlass still. It was just Greninja Frostlass with Badoo, you know. I think this one is just going to go straight into an A, probably above the expanded Reggie, maybe. No, this one's more unique, and I like that, so we'll leave it there. But I think it's going to slot in there because this was actually a deck that did top 8, and there has been some Greninjas popping up in the top 8 levels, so that's kind of good, and it has... And it brought Greninja back into it a little bit, you know? Without Badoo, Greninja was nowhere. So, you know, it's as fun as Greninja is. And Greninja can be quite slow and sometimes not the most exhilarating to play. And so because of that, although very solid, I think just with how good it is, I'm going to put that on the mid-A. Oh, speaking of fun, we have Ceruledge with the Salvatore. A bit of an out-of-nowhere deck that I put out there. Yes, has the white Salvatore in there. I saw the comment. It's the only one I could find, the only image. I really enjoyed this deck. I enjoyed the donk potential behind it. I enjoyed how fun it was. But did it have... okay, let's acknowledge how good it is. It's Ceruledge. It's going to be very strong. It's going to be good. We can admit that. Is it necessary? No, personally. But I tell you what, taking some donk KOs and catching people off guard with a turn 1 going second Ceruledge attack was really fun. And it was able to achieve it relatively consistently. So I think it's going to go in terms of pulling off Salvatore, which is always a fun thing to do. And it being a very good deck, I think, will Regidrago, like a My Mask in One Punch Man, allow it to take the top spot of the A rank? I think it's going to be no. Oh, God, I'm just thinking vibes, bro. I'm thinking vibes, okay? Like, Regidrago, ADP, that's, like, crazy. You just can't shake how, like, interesting this concept is, you know? I don't know. We are, though, however, finishing on a low. That is Jolteon with Ogerpon. Just a terrible deck. Yes, it's cool, right? But Jolteon is just better fitted in the Evolutions deck. And then you also have the fact that you're just better off with Raging Bolt. So yeah, Jolteon just has no place, doesn't really fulfill anything rogue, wasn't an enjoyable experience to play, is limited in damage output. It just wasn't good enough. I gave it a go, boys, for the sake of the meme, but yeah, it wasn't that great. But either way, that's going to be it for the tier list. There is your final look at it there. I don't know if I can link this somewhere. I'll try and see if I can link this somewhere. I don't know. But if I can, I'll link it in the description. If not, I don't know. I'd love to just see your thoughts on this. Top 5, it is Badoo Frostlass, Seaking for Alligator, Regidrago, ADP for Expanded Love, and Salvatore Ceruledge.